So the big piece of this project is community partnership and advocating for this innovation aspect of otherwise, this high profitable DoorDash operation. Am I capturing what you're saying here, Jocelyn?
Yeah, I think, because I think, I mean, looking at from like the grant perspective, like what it is we'll be using the funding for and like the measurable outcomes. And I think we can definitely achieve that with policy initiatives, even just like nutritional education. I think we could add multiple components to give that measurable deliverable. But I know a big part of this grant, they do want folks to focus on policy and innovation. And I think that is very doable with, instead of reinventing the wheel, like, oh, let's make this, app that there's similar on the market, and then we have to get the messaging out there, get people to, subscribe to it. That's just a lot of work to be able to get to that capacity. But I think, a big part of like looking at that from a sustainability lens, if we could use that fund and that timing to, host like a town hall or, get the community involved to see like, what would this be something that you would want, and then like having those local officials, writing to these companies. So, really getting it on their radar at a large scale of this is a community need. This is something that your users would, really benefit from. This is how the company would benefit from. I think kind of showcasing that with what we could describe in our, like what we would be doing with the funding. I think to push towards that end result would be, a really lofty goal, but I think would be long-term the most sustainable, because that infrastructure is so established, especially in communities that suffer food insecurity. So I think it would be meeting people where they already are, which I think is something that Michigan Health Endowment Fund really focuses on.
Right. So what kind, I guess what I'm trying to envision now is what kind of community partners do we need so that we have this kinds of kind of influence or kind of works for this to happen, specifically for Pontiac?
Yeah, I think even within our other objectives within this project, the community is very much centered in the project, whether it be advocacy for like a policy initiative to reduce costs for businesses to participate, or what incentives they would be able to tap into. So having that community voicing that that's something they want from their constituents to, definitely hone in on or focus in on would be really important to know that this is something that the community is behind or in support of. And I think other aspects too that we mentioned, like the environmental scaling, looking at what parts of the community have access to groceries, having that data to support. Right. So I think that those would be like the two big components, and where their voice would be very necessary. And then even maybe if we held like focus groups to see, how are folks getting their current food, like where are they relying the most on their meals for, so we can kind of see, what's already working and what can we make even more accessible, and what can we heighten as far as quality as well.
Right. So those are like, go ahead.
Yeah, Jim and I were looking at the deliverables of the grant again, and I think what Jocelyn is saying and reaffirming is that this could be, and tell me if I'm wrong, this grant could be more focused on education and policy, and then doing those kind of deeper, like we do design charrettes, but focus groups or design charrettes or open-ended engagements as a discovery mechanism for understanding the needs to streamline, and the web, a deliverable of a web app that provides food deliveries is not necessarily the deliverable of this grant. Is that right?
The deliverable of this grant would be some kind of matrix, not matrix, but if this is an implementation grant, then the funders will need to know about the impacts. So what are those impacts? Well, if we are able to address the food insecurity problems, then we will be looking into like how many restaurants or food deliveries have been, that have happened over a period of time. Another outcome will be like a physical outcome, more of in terms of addressing health issues. Were there like reduction in A1C, things like that. So they're definitely, it's not like the web app. The web app is just like a tool to make this deliverables happen or happening. Without the web app, without the transfer of food from the surplus to the consumers, we don't demonstrate some kind of an impact.
Good point.
Based on the project. So the web app is a very, very important component of this project.
And all of those focus groups and immersions in the community could inform the development of a good web app.
Well, here's the thing. In pretty much in most of the projects that we do, we start with some kind of an environmental scan, kind of to get an understanding of the problem and the extent of the problem. So we involve some literature, some research, looking into some numbers. If it is indeed a problem, if food insecurity is a problem, who says that? Can you back it up with some numbers? And so that's where the planning stage of the plan. This particular fund,
we certainly don't have that problem in Pontiac.
we will find the numbers.
It's a food desert. Okay.
Right. So if you look at our concept paper, what we were proposing is a four-pronged approach. And so one is establishing a data repository, and that needs to be fleshed out to include what Jocelyn has mentioned about those different key activities wherein we can enable some kind of advocacy for the community partners to kind of look into, so that we can make things happen, so that we can have this food recovery using a web app really happening. So that's one piece. And then number two is collaborative, that advocates for policy change and on food recovery. So this can be elaborated on all sorts of things, but the main thing is there is this community from the bottom push to make this strategies of addressing food insecurity through this operation using a web app really happen. So there are a lot of conversations that will happen. And then the third one is a web app based infrastructure. Here I did not say we're going to create a web based app. We were kind of smart enough to say, we can either use the existing ones or get some sense of what does it look like to create one. But my tendency is not to create one. I'm going to have a meeting tomorrow with MPHI's IT team, just to get a sense of how does this work? Where does the information will reside? Without really thinking of developing our own, just to be more knowledgeable about how this works, how the infrastructure works. And lastly, the approach is to create an adaptable education plan and toolkits for health, nutrition, and active lifestyles. So that's the part that we're trying to describe in this proposal. How would it look like? And so, yeah, we will have a work plan describing the different phases of the project. And at the end of that project, two years, is what we're saying. We should have some kind of an initial outcome of what this web app and transfer of food, that whole scenario, what sort of change impact will we be creating, and lessons learned, since Pontiac is what we're saying as a pilot project. Is this something that we can continue on in Flint or in other areas of Michigan?
Well, certainly Flint, and then we have a city just up the street, Detroit, all suffering from a similar fate today, in this moment.
Right.
How are we addressing in this moment? Or is that for something for the future?
I'm only talking about future next steps after the pilot project in Pontiac is concluded. So because we're not going to be able to handle all of these, food deserts places all at one time. We're just going to demonstrate that with an innovation piece that we are adding into the already existing infrastructure like DoorDash, we might be able to really divert food waste going to the mainstream by really putting those at the hands or on the table of those who really in need. So we presented the concept paper in such a way that there are so many things that will be happening, and it's not just the transfer of food from one to the other. It's like a comprehensive, really a comprehensive project that we are looking into.
Sure. Yeah, we recognize that. A great deal of this is things that we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years from the standpoint of community engagement.
Right. So I see your position at PHINCO as really instrumental in making these connections, enable not just describing what a systems should look like, but tapping into existing organizations or operations that could help us kind of build this comprehensive project.
And we provide a platform.
Tell us about that platform, Jim.
You've been using it.
I know we're using Monica's
that
always.
Okay, so the Zoom proposition is really great, except it lacks any visual exchange. And what we provide is a platform for visual exchange and the trading of information that then is available 365, 24/7. So when you have an engaged community, they begin to build that component that is necessary to inform, rather than just being there to be informed. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they want to inform the community. The community is the knowledge base.
So when you write a letter of proposal, because and I'm going to send like an example of what that letter of proposal, letter of support looking like. So right on top of my head, typically our community partners write about what they do different parts of the state. So in a nutshell, we're looking at a proposal and a proposed project where we have the different components, and when we put them together at the right spot, I can see that addressing food insecurity in Pontiac, reducing hunger, delivering healthy foods, and providing the educational pieces that go with the food will be a reality.
So what do you think? Who is involved? Okay. Who is involved? There's a positive response there.
So how do you feel like you can be, what part of this do you feel like you be counting into support?
Roles. Yeah.
We're just asking, because when we get that letter of support, we gotta write it all up.
Well, I think we should, Monica, can you share your screen?
Yes.
And-
I
and-
think so.
We were fortunate enough
Go ahead, stop
to
sharing.
go over to Norma's place at Oakland Hope. And Norma, what's the scale of your facility? How many square feet?
We have 56,000 square feet
56,000 square
Correct.
feet.
and are currently spending almost, in some months, over $50,000 a month in food to provide free groceries to over 12,000 people a month. We are Oakland County's largest food pantry. We're located right here in Pontiac at the corner of Baldwin and Walton. We have reimagined a food pantry system. We have reimagined our thrift store, which is our funding mechanism, and we are about to embark on our community kitchen and culinary space, and we too have reimagined that. We're here with any interest and this group about food waste and nutrition. So I'm just excited to participate. Thank you for the invitation.
Great, and among many other things, and we were able to get a few examples, if you will, of what that facility looks like, so we can give you some kind of idea of the scale and the diversity that is represented there. Kind of idea of the scale and the diversity that is represented there. And I think as well, Norma, you said that you were about to develop a kitchen.
Correct. We're in a closed grocery store, so we have a large kitchen that's existing that we have received a grant to remodel, and our focus primarily is for an AM and a PM culinary class for returning citizens and marginalized youth. And then after hours would be a community kitchen for rent for women entrepreneurs, food truck, folks who are caterers.
So we have farm to table, we have food collection, food donations, purchased food, food consumption, food delivery. I think that pretty well covers it. Now the question is, how do we scale that in a meaningful way? And I know we discussed that as well in your budget that we need to work on, of which this grant represents about 1/6 of what you actually need, I believe, as we were describing and discussing a couple days ago.
I am with Oakland University William Beaumont School of Medicine. I also have an expertise in nutrition. I'm a registered dietitian, and I actually integrate the topic of food security into our curriculum, and I work with our medical students on many community activities. Especially we've worked with Gleaners and Forgotten Harvest as well. So I'm here because I was invited. I'm very excited about your project. And again, I'm trying to wrap my head around it and figure out what best I can do. I'm also an associate professor in family medicine and community health at Cornwall. So maybe I'm the clinical aspect of this. I'm not really sure, but very happy to. And Gary Bernstein is also a big part of what we do, and that is located in Pontiac. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm also working for Oakland University. As a special lecturer, working for the International Studies Program. So, yeah, I think we share some of that community engagement piece, and I do bring my students to Pontiac as well. That's why I met Jim and Monica. So we've been doing all sorts of interactions even before the pandemic, not during and after the pandemic, unfortunately. But anyway, this project has a component on nutrition, and so we will definitely welcome your talent and your anything that you can bring into the table for this project and for Pontiac. So.
That's correct.
Yes.
I would be most interested in having the template because in doing my letter, I pretty much used some of the information that I received in the letter, and also I acknowledge that some of that may be changed, but the basics is what I use. But to have any kind of formula for the budget or whatnot, that would help me when I speak to someone like Angela Powell, our commissioner at Oakland County. I noticed the lady said that she was from Oakland County, so I know she will pretty much talk to Angela at any rate. But if she found out I'm involved, she'll get in touch with me.
And that's where that should come from. It should come from the community, from the representative of the community to governance, through governance, by governance.
Yes.
That's how that should happen.
Yeah, so what's neat about this proposed project is we're addressing a real scenario, and we can make some quantification on the impact at the end of, say, 2 years. But it's also equally neat is that it is community driven. It's more of a like a community practice that we are trying to form here. And so to see this happening in Pontiac, it's something that's really excites me.
Can I just say what I think the app should be?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure you read about, because I read all the time when I'm not sleeping, about food rescue, food waste.
Right.
So if the app was to connect pantries for waste, to pick up recycling, reusing for farms, maybe it could then go to the Forgotten Harvest farm. Maybe it could go to a poultry place. Maybe
this is why you're going to be in the grant.
Yeah, that maybe it could go to Oakland County Farmers Market, so then they start their own compost thing with the stuff from restaurants, the stuff from grocery stores, and the stuff from food pantries.
You see the role you're playing here?
You're the idea.
You're the reason.